Most parents don't realize that one of the most common ways they try to comfort their child is actually preventing that child from developing the essential emotional skills they'll need for the rest of their life. This isn't about being too loving or too attentive. It's about a specific response pattern that happens dozens of times a day in caring homes, and it's quietly creating more anxiety, more dependency, and less emotional resilience than most parents would ever imagine possible. If your child seems increasingly anxious, asks for constant reassurance, or struggles to manage uncomfortable feelings on their own, this video will help you understand what might be happening and what you can do differently starting today. The mistake we're talking about is excessive reassurance. When your child expresses worry, fear, or uncertainty, your natural instinct is to immediately tell them everything is fine, that there's nothing to worry about, that they're completely safe. You say it gently. You say it with love. You mean every word. This feels like exactly what a caring parent should do. But neuroscience shows that when we provide constant reassurance in response to our child's anxious feelings, we're teaching their developing brain something very different than we intend. The child's nervous system learns that anxiety is something dangerous that requires immediate external intervention to manage. Their brain begins to interpret the urgency of our reassurance as confirmation that the worried feeling itself is a problem that must be quickly eliminated. Research in developmental psychology finds that children who receive excessive reassurance actually develop higher levels of anxiety over time, not lower. They become dependent on others to tell them whether situations are safe or manageable, because they've learned not to trust their own assessment. The reassurance provides temporary relief in the moment, but it prevents the development of genuine emotional capacity. Here's what's happening at the level of emotional development. Children need to experience their emotions, sit with them briefly, and discover through that experience that feelings are temporary and tolerable. When we immediately reassure them that they don't need to feel what they're feeling, we interrupt this essential learning process. The developing brain builds emotional resilience specifically through experiences of feeling uncomfortable and then naturally returning to calm. When we short-circuit that process by rushing in with reassurance, we prevent the neural pathways for emotional regulation and distress tolerance from forming. The child never learns that they have internal resources for managing worry because those resources never get the chance to develop. From a neuroscience perspective, excessive reassurance teaches the brain that uncomfortable feelings are emergencies rather than normal human experiences. The child learns that anxiety requires someone else to make it go away, rather than learning that they have some capacity to be with the feeling until it passes on its own. The long-term effects of this pattern extend far beyond childhood. Children who become dependent on constant reassurance often grow into adults who struggle with chronic anxiety, who cannot make decisions without seeking extensive validation from others, and who lack fundamental trust in their own judgment and capability. They develop what developmental psychology calls external locus of control, meaning they look outside themselves for confirmation about whether they're safe, whether their choices are correct, whether their feelings are valid. This creates a lifetime pattern of self-doubt and anxiety, because they never develop the internal sense of knowing that comes from trusting their own emotional experience. Research shows that these individuals often experience higher rates of anxiety disorders, difficulty with independence, challenges in relationships, and persistent feelings of uncertainty, because their early brain never learned that they could trust themselves to assess and manage their own emotional states. What to do instead is validate your child's emotion without immediately trying to eliminate it. When your child says they're scared or worried, instead of rushing to reassure them that everything is fine, you can simply acknowledge what they're experiencing. I hear that feels scary to you, or you're feeling worried right now. You're confirming that their feeling is real and acceptable, without communicating that it needs to be immediately fixed. Then, and this is the critical part, you offer your calm presence without intervening further. You stay nearby with grounded, relaxed energy. Your body language communicates that you are not alarmed by their feeling. You're showing them through your regulated nervous system that this emotion is not dangerous, that they can experience it, and that you trust them to move through it. This doesn't mean ignoring genuine distress or leaving your child alone with overwhelming feelings. It means giving them 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes to be with the uncomfortable feeling before you offer help or solutions. That brief space is where the essential learning happens. Teaching emotional resilience requires allowing children to practice sitting with uncomfortable feelings while you remain supportively present. When your child is anxious about something, Resist the immediate urge to reassure. Instead, ask gentle questions that help them connect with their own thinking. What do you notice about this feeling? Or what do you think might help? You're guiding them to access their own internal resources rather than providing external solutions. You can also practice graduated exposure to the situations that trigger anxiety. If your child is worried about something, acknowledge the feeling and then gently support them in taking small steps toward the challenging situation rather than avoiding it or immediately reassuring them out of the discomfort. This teaches their brain that they can handle difficulty and that anxiety doesn't have to control their choices. The key is maintaining your own calm presence throughout. If you are anxious about their anxiety, if your tone or body language communicates urgency about making the feeling stop, their nervous system will read that as confirmation that the feeling is dangerous. Your regulated state is what allows their developing brain to learn that emotions are safe to experience. Here's what this approach teaches over time. It teaches children that feelings are temporary, that discomfort is tolerable, that they have internal capacity to manage emotional experiences, that asking for support when truly needed is healthy, but that they don't require constant external reassurance to function. These lessons become the foundation for genuine emotional health and resilience. The shift from constant reassurance to calm validation and presence is subtle but profound. You're not withdrawing support. You're offering a different kind of support, one that builds capacity rather than dependency. You're trusting your child's emotional process rather than trying to control or eliminate it. Start making small adjustments. The next time your child expresses worry, pause before immediately reassuring. Take a breath. Validate the feeling. Offer your calm presence. Notice what happens when you give them a little space to be with the emotion. Watch how, over time, they begin to develop more confidence in their own ability to manage uncomfortable feelings. Your child's emotional health depends not on being protected from all uncomfortable feelings, but on learning that those feelings are safe to experience and that they have the capacity to move through them. The reassurance habit, while loving, prevents this essential learning. The validation and presence approach supports it. If this helps you understand your child's emotional development differently, share it with other parents who might benefit. And stay here for more science-based guidance on raising emotionally resilient, confident children who trust themselves and their capacity to navigate life's challenges.